Hello everybody, Nero X back again for another episode of Terraria Induced Thoughts, and today's episode is on the Nintendo Switch, or more accurately, the amount of third-party games and new IPs coming to the thing. It seems as though Nintendo has finally learned their lesson about their old IPs, and that while they are more reliable, you have to give new IPs a chance and take risks in order to be successful. Now, we saw Splatoon for the Wii U, and we have ARMS coming for the Nintendo Switch, which I don't own, unfortunately, because I suffer from a disease called broke-itis. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Now, ARMS, from what I've seen, 1 is launching with more content than Street Fighter V, sips tea, and 2 does have a lot of potential as a simple fighting game that requires a good amount of time and dedication to really learn the ins and outs of it, sort of like Smash Brothers, only not relying on all of Nintendo's other IPs to sell it. Now, another thing that the Switch has done right is that it's apparently very easy to develop for. So a lot of third-party developers, as well as third-party games, as well as indie games, are making their appearances on the console. Now, obviously that's all great news for Nintendo, as well as fans of Nintendo and, the Nintendo Switch in general, because Nintendo obviously has made some mistakes, both marketing and development-wise, for the Wii and for the Wii U. So it seems as though they learned from the mistakes they made with both those consoles, marketed the Nintendo Switch aggressively, and its sales do show. It's been doing great. I can hardly find the thing. Now, let's get to the other side of that same coin here, the excess amount of indie games on the platform. Now, obviously, the indie game boom has been going on for about the past, I'd say, decade, even, because it kind of started after the Xbox 360 Live Arcade launched. Then, Steam came out and it has its own system for indie games. Basically, there's a lot more avenues for developers, smaller developers, to get their games out there, get themselves noticed, and start turning a profit in and making use of those college degrees they spent so many nights on earning. Now, the trade side to this, and there obviously always is going to be a trade side, or another side of that coin, rather, I think is the best way to word that, is that because of there being more avenues out there for indie development, it's very, very easy for terrible games to get onto good storefronts, as you've seen with Steam and maybe even good old games to an extent. And I know you have to give indie games certain allowances. They're made by smaller studios, they're made on tighter budgets, and you do have to honestly respect the work that still goes into it, even if a game is terrible. Like, even if an indie game is horrible by most standards, even then, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and effort, and love went into making it. And you have to give it some level of an allowance, but where I draw the line with it is if it's just an asset flip of a game, like you see all the time on Steam, unfortunately. Like, watch pretty much any Jimquisition video, and you'll see a lot of that kind of crap out there, and it does suck because that makes all indie developers look terrible. Like they're all just doing that when there have been great indie games released, like Shovel Knight, Prison Architect, Dust and Elysian Tale, which I still have a hard-on for. I clearly need to record footage of that game to review it. Yeah. So, I think that's about all I can really say about the Nintendo Switch right now. So, I mean, I don't own one, so I don't really have too much of a frame of reference, but I do see potential in the system. What about you? What do you think about the current indie game boom, as well as third-party support for the Nintendo Switch? Leave your answers in the comments, or add me on Twitter. I'm Nero X. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Terraria Induced Thoughts with a nice cup of coffee, and I'm out of here. Peace. Hello, everybody.